Welcome to Edify IT, helping professionals to grow.
So today's topic is performance tuning. So what is the performance tuning and how we can achieve a greater performance in SQL Server with provided resources. So we'll start with the definition. What is performance tuning? So performance tuning in general. What is performance tuning and what do we mean by it? A performance tuning is the process of optimizing the performance, efficiency, and resource utilization of computer systems, databases, applications, and networks. So, this is in general. While we look into the SQL Server area, so in SQL Server, what is the performance tuning concept? So, in SQL Server, performance tuning is the systematic process of optimizing the performance of SQL queries. So, this is the main area. Like whatever is we are querying and the result whatever we are getting out of it, the result should be in an efficient way and should take minimal time. What is ideal? Correct. Another one is the performance tuning in terms of the database operations. So whatever doing like creating the objects, deleting, removing, updating, all are the operations. Correct. Again, it should be in a minimal time. And ultimately the overall SQL Server environment to enhance speed, efficiency, and responsiveness. So we will clear all the doubts of all the points in this definition. So in SQL queries, whenever we are writing a query, executing it, the result should be written in a minimal time. Database operation, we mean it by creating, deleting, updating objects. When I say object means creating the tables, users, deleting, updation permissions, running cursors like this. The overall SQL Server environment means the overall performance of SQL Server. So if we say like look, there are multiple users, then for each one it should be like it should be same for all users. Correct. The speed is here means by the query IO input output operations. Efficiency means creating the objects, retrieving the result out of the objects like table, and the responsiveness is the query return the result or records, right? The goal is to ensure that the database system. So when we say database system, it is overall performance, so overall database system that can retrieve and process of data quickly while utilizing system resources effectively. Correct. So here the definition is clear. So it this definition involves and like comprises of all the options, so all the objects in terms of the database system. So this is if we say let me just now highlight database system, mm, database systems, right? The definition is like revolve around database system that can retrieve and process data quickly while utilizing system resources. So when we say resources, it is basically whatever the data units it is consuming. So there are multiple causes. So we'll focus here. I'll just give you a brief. Then in detail, we'll speak in later on videos. So one is insufficient and inaccurate indexes. So guys, what are the indexes? These are the objects. Correct. Indexes is like to there are multiple types of indexes in SQL Server: clustered, non-clustered. So that is the concept of we'll clear in the index session. So how we create the index, how this performs, and what kind of indexes are there. So as of now, the indexes is just to like retrieving the objects in a faster way. So each row does have a unique ID that is the index. So based on that index, database help us to like respond or give the result in a quicker way. So when we say insufficient, insufficient means, for an example, we have a table, and in that table we don't have a required indexes. For an example, we are using a date column or we are using an ID column, and index is not there, but index is there on the other columns. So this is insufficient. Inaccurate index. So this means like the index is the table does have a cluster index, correct? But we have not applied the cluster index, and basically it's missing that. So inaccurate index. A right column, it should have a right index. Inaccurate statistics. So we'll come in the next chapters or next videos. We'll def- describe what are the statistics, and how the SQL Server is creating those stats, using those statistics while creating the execution plan. So it's basically the internal mechanism of SQL Server, how it create the execution plan based on these statistics. So we'll clear it, correct? This topic, statistics. Improper query design. So what do we mean here? Improper query design. For an example, if we have created a query, correct, and we have applied some join. So instead of the right join, we have applied some other join, correct. We have used CTEs, multiple CTEs, correct, inside a subquery, a query is inside a subqueries. So these are the type of improper query design. So we should use CTEs where it is required, should avoid subqueries if it does not require, correct, should use the right join to retrieve the results. Poor, poorly generated execution plan. So you must be aware, or if not aware, like we will cover this also inside our no, this course or this playlist. So what is this execution plan? So just give you a brief. Execution plan is something like which is being created by SQL Server at the backend to retrieve the results faster. So it creates some execution plan, a path where it follows how and when and what. Means at what time it is applying the filter, at what time it is executing, like applying the filter, processing the results, using the indexes, creating the stats, using those stats. These all are part of the execution plan. So this is nothing like manual execution plan. SQL Server creates it at its own. So this is the benefit of the database engine. So sometimes SQL Server creates execution plan which can be much better. We will see like how to create, check, not create, like check and rebuild those execution plans, recompilation, all those things. Excessive blocking and deadlocks. If you have not applied the right query, multiple users are applying the same query at the same database, same object, same tables. So the query comes under the deadlock condition. And it will wait for another query to process first, then it will execute another query. But sometimes both query like fires together and the condition comes of the deadlocking. So we will also cover like what are the best practices to avoid this scenario. Non-set based operations like cursor. So here cursor is another topic, but as of now I'll give you some brief. Like cursor are the step or row by row operation, correct. So this is a very heavy operation of SQL Server. So we'll cover like what are the best practices, correct, in cursor. So we have to take care of this also during our performance tuning operations. Inappropriate database design. This is normal in terms of how you have designed your database. In what normalization it is correct. Does it like fit into the right normalization form, and every data tables are correctly created in view of the database design, not in like it's not like you have created some table, it's basically in part of the database design, like right indexes are there, correct, right relationship are there, cardinality is being followed, all those points we will cover. Database design will touch this, so it's a together part of um, data plan, but we will cover basic understanding of it and how you can avoid these causes. Recompilation of execution plan. So we'll cover this also in detail as of now. So I am just giving you a brief like what are the recompiling of execution plan. So when a SQL server creates the execution plan, we have discussed it here. So user have an option to recompile it. Recompiling means every time whenever a query runs, it creates its own execution plan. So it's not good. Like sometimes it is required when you have dynamic store procedures or dynamic values. In that case, it is good to have a recompilation execution. So we have a dbcc command, or we have a like inbuilt command in SQL Server, so that we can just specify during our query execution, like it has to create another or a fresh execution plan every time when it recompiles. So it will clear all the cache and create a execution plan freshly. So sometimes it is not advisable to recompile execution plan each and every time. Correct. Again, frequent recompilation of the queries. The next is excessive index fragmentation. So excessive fragment index fragmentation is what? So this is part of the DBA job to check frequently at a particular interval. Like for an example, some organization follows the fortnightly, some where the database is very like small and very limited use of the database. In that case, it is fine to have more than fortnightly, but it is advisable to review the index fragmentation. For an example, here if we'll speak, the fragmentation means sometimes during the creating or inserting the records, SQL Server fragmented the indexes. So we have to recompile and recreate the indexes, check if any fragmentation is there inside the table. Correct. So this is part of the DBA job. So you have to take care of in your fortnightly activity or weekly activity or sometime in monthly. So we'll cover all these topics in details. So thank you.